It's time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, and this is actually a special pickle podcast coming directly from Pink Room Studios, where you have both of the brothers in Brine finally together, finally in the same studio, finally, it's happening. Thank you.
Bravo.
So now that you've actually kind of had a chance to settle in, you've got your rig parked. Mm-hmm. You're actually in Michigan. How long are you going to be in Michigan?
Undetermined.
Oh, the old undetermined.
At least until October.
Okay, so until spooky season.
Yeah, I mean we're in spooky season. We're waist deep in Jason's.
Yes, that's what you were saying. Now explain to people what Jason is. It's not only the scary movie character, but it's also an acronym.
Do. Yeah, Jason stands for July, August, September, October, November.
Because that's how deep they start planning for Halloween.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like...
You got to really start building in July.
If you're doing a haunted house.
Yes.
So you got to start...
Or my house.
Yeah, or your house, exactly. Which you haven't seen in 2 years. So you haven't even been able to decorate for over 2 years.
In Texas, I don't really do a whole lot for Halloween because my first year in Texas, I had the police called on me.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Apparently, a neighbor or a trick-or-treater parent didn't appreciate the fact that I was breathing fire.
Oh, well.
I had one of my guitar speakers outside playing some creepy music and was breathing fire, and yeah.
Well,
it was fun.
Fuck that neighbor. All right, let's get to it.
Fuck them all.
Fuck them all. Let's get to it. We're going to do something a little bit different instead of the news because we're actually at this little weird point in the news.
Yes.
Because nothing really is popping in the news because of the debate. So each side is kind of pulling back a little bit. So you're not seeing a lot of political news. And the news that you are seeing is kind of like softball news. So there's really not much to report as far as what's going on, aside from that tonight at 9 p.m. is the big debate between Kamala and Donald Duck. So
they should have those little squeezy chickens so that when the other person's talking and they think they're lying, they go, that would be entertaining.
So in lieu of doing the news, you had a really interesting idea of what happened this date in history.
This date in history.
God, I love that.
Let me add in my Smithsonian voice. This day in history. Well, number one, September 10th, 1897 was the very first drunk driving arrest.
Really? I bet that guy was surprised.
Mr. George Smith, a 25-year-old taxi driver from London, was charged for drunk driving after crashing his cab into a building.
See, that's what's funny to me is if you think about what year was that?
1897.
Okay, 1897. And even when you got into the 1970s, almost the 1980s, cops would be like, yeah, you had too much to drink. We're going to follow you home. Don't let it happen again.
We're going to follow you.
We're going to make sure you get
home safe.
You've had a
few too many. You just crawl in the back of the car.
No, it's all right. Joey's going to drive your car home, and we're going to get you there.
Yeah, the first state to pass laws was New York in 1910.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yes.
But it would have to suck to be, like I said, the first person who got a drinking and driving ticket, and that's what you're known for. I mean, that's his legacy. Yes. That's his legacy, which is interesting because we're going to get into legacies.
Reading this, it says in 1938, the first widely accepted BAC limit was introduced, setting the national limit at 0.15%. Now, my question is, how did they determine that back then?
That's a good question.
That's what I want to know.
But it has since gone up to 0.8%.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, BAC is blood alcohol content.
It's only 0.18. Goddamn, I got shooting for a high score here.
No, 0.08.
Oh wait, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
if you were 1.08, you're done, son. You're going to jail.
Oh, that was for the crowd.
Yeah, and it picked up nicely on the mic. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, this day in history, 1977, the guillotine falls silent for the last time. In 1977, September 10, I'm not going to say, Beaumedes prison. I guess that's how it's pronounced. I don't know.
I'm going to guess it's in France.
In Marseille, France. Why do they got to do this? Hamida,
That guy.
That's actually his name. A Tunisian immigrant convicted of murder becomes the last person executed by guillotine.
What are your thoughts on that? I think that's it's surprising that it was 1977 was the last time they used the guillotine. I'm not going to say I'm not a little bit shocked by that. I am. But I would also say that I think if they had the guillotine, it would still in use. It would kind of be cool because, like, unlike injections and that, guillotine works every time.
Well, you know what's interesting? A doctor in, I want to say it was the late 1800s, did an experiment where he would be present at the execution by guillotine, and he would run
and grab the head.
Yeah, and grab the head, and notice that when saying the person's name repeatedly, their eyes would open, and they would look like they're trying to talk for up to 6 minutes afterwards.
Oh. All right, maybe not the guillotine. Maybe we just let this go. But it is effective.
You're just trying to die. You just lost your head.
And somebody,
some asshole's like, Steve,
wake up, man. Where's my body? Where's my body?
I mean, imagine it be a real dick. Grab the head by the hair and show it the body. Like, look at it.
I'm sure they had to. I'm sure they did. I am sure they did.
Yes.
Again, that's his legacy. He's the last person that was ever.
That is his legacy. And in, what year is this? 1607, I think. I don't actually give a year. 1608. My bad. September 10th, 1608, John Smith is elected to lead Jamestown.
That worked out awesome for him, by the way.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Everything kind of just fell into place.
They weren't eating each other or nothing.
No. It was all good. They were just like, hey, can you believe how awesome life is? This is the land.
It's crazy.
Of milk and honey.
Today, I lost my penis to a disease.
I didn't want it anyway. I wanted to go through the trans thing, and it did it for me.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it.
That's how it went down. That's exactly it.
And in 1813, September 10th, is the first unqualified defeat of a British naval squadron in history of the Battle of 1812. That was the battle, but this was 1813 for the Battle of Lake Erie.
Oh, it was on Lake Erie?
Lake Erie.
And that's the first time they lost? First time.
First unqualified defeat of a British naval squadron.
Wow.
Perry. They have what's called Perry's Landing and Perry's Monument out by Putin Bay.
Yeah.
In Lake Erie. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't. And to be honest with you, it's one of the places that I want to go. But you've had the opportunity to actually sightsee more than I ever did.
Well, that was actually with the first time seeing it was with Mom and Dad.
Okay.
Yeah, we went out to Putin Bay, which they also, I do believe, in Putin Bay, Ohio, have the longest bar table.
Really?
The bar top. The longest in the world.
Longest bar.
I can't say how long it is, but it's pretty freaking long.
Well, there you go.
It's got to be like 200 feet long.
There you go, Putin Bay.
Maybe much larger.
That's their legacy.
But also, this day in history, 1921, silent film star Fatty Arbuckle arrested for murder.
Now, we were talking about this earlier, and you said that you don't believe it's the time that he was arrested while naked.
Well, let me peruse this.
Because I'm pretty sure he got arrested and was like butt-ass naked. Because he was a fucking partier. People don't realize it. Like, he was a huge womanizer.
This actually does not make mention of it whatsoever, but it says he was arrested September 10th by the San Francisco police, which started a huge scandal in the Hollywood world, but he was arrested for the rape and murder of an aspiring actress, Virginia Rapp.
So that, all right. So again, this is his legacy.
Yes.
So the reason I keep saying that,
Not just the name Fatty.
no. Fatty is in and of itself a legacy. But the reason I keep saying this is we and you have been talking about legacy. And the reason we've been talking about legacy is because one of our childhood heroes
Correct.
just passed. And that was this man here.
Simba, let me tell you something that my father told me. Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
That is the infamous James Earl Jones, who died at, I believe it was 93 years old.
Correct, sir.
93
years old.
Now, when
New York.
When we were preparing for this podcast, which is not something we normally do, but when we were preparing for this podcast, you gave me a lot of food for thought about this. And on top of it, you told me that apparently he had a deal like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was through Disney, but it was executed, I should say, by a Ukrainian company.
Okay.
Who did the recording for Disney.
Okay. And in that, what happened?
He recorded, I don't know if it was phrases, but whatever they needed so they could forever use AI to use his voice for Darth Vader or even Mufasa.
Okay. And the reason...
Because he wanted to retire from acting altogether years ago.
But the reason he did that...
Yes.
Was because he wanted to hold on to his legacy as Darth Vader.
Correct.
And he recognized that even at 88, 89 years old or whatever he was at the time, he recognized where the potential for AI was and where the technology was based on that potential, and saw it as a opportunity to make sure that he was forever the voice of Darth Vader, and did so because he had said, "That's my legacy."
Yes.
All right. So,
sorry, David Prowse.
Yeah, but you didn't have the voice, buddy. You had the build, but not the voice.
Have you heard?
Yes.
David Prowse.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. It did not invoke any feelings of dread.
No. It invoked feelings of
did
what
he just threaten me and my planet, or did he try to sell me some fish and chips?
I'm not quite sure, but I really want fish and chips now. So the reason...
Interesting. Little tidbit of trivia.
You got fish and chips trivia?
No, I don't. Not fish and chips. But James Earl Jones, did you see him in The Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
At the end of the episode, he rings the doorbell of Carrie Fisher to play a prank on her.
I believe so, yeah.
That was the first time those two had ever met.
Oh, really? That's fucking hysterical. That's awesome.
Because he did all of Darth Vader's lines in a studio, which took 2.5 hours only.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And he'd never met Carrie Fisher.
Or any of them, really.
No.
At least not while filming.
Which Mark Hamill put out a tweet about the death and said, "Rip Daddy."
So to me, I don't know about you, but to me, the loss of James Earl Jones will not only forever be felt because he was such a great actor and he did so many things. I mean, the
iconic father figures too, if you think about it.
A lot of them. Yeah. A lot of them.
Maybe a little dysfunctional with the Darth Vader.
Well, yeah. Well, you could even say that about Mufasa.
Well, I mean, in a different sense.
In a different sense.
He was murdered.
But,
But also, he was King Jaffa, Eddie Murphy's father in Coming to America. Iconic. I was going to get some clips of that, but it just didn't work out.
He was in Color Purple.
Yeah, Color Purple, The Sandlot.
I mean, like it
This
really
has got George's signature.
wasn't.
Yeah,
Was he in
George
Cocoon?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
All right, but
That was diabetes.
yeah, eat your oatmeal,
Wilford Brimley, who was
Wilford Brimley.
age 60, even in second grade.
But what you fucked me up when we were talking about that actually on one of the podcasts. You said that he was like 45 or something when he did
Yes.
Cocoon.
His first really big one was The Natural, where he played the old baseball coach.
Yeah,
He was 42.
that's gotta suck.
That's like what, 10 years younger than you?
Yeah,
You do not look like Wilford.
no, I do not look like Wilford Brimley.
That dude seriously was probably
Maybe-
shaving his 5 o'clock shadow. In
I might look
third
like
grade.
Fat Axel, but I don't look like Wilford Brimley. I'll take Fat Axel, but I won't take Wilfred. But anyways, this got us talking about legacy. And what I really appreciated about the fact of what he had said was, this is my legacy, meaning Darth Vader. And he was willing to do what he needed to do to try to the best of his ability, protect his legacy,
Yes.
which I think is admirable. All right. And I think he's right. Being the voice of Darth Vader is absolutely, yeah, he's the voice of CNN. This is CNN. And that's all well and good. Okay.
Can I say that we have to find a way to protect William Shatner?
Oh, yeah. Like we need to wrap him in bubble wrap. He can't be going out to space like that with Bezos.
Even though he bears a striking resemblance of our deceased aunt.
He does, actually. It's true.
I don't know what that says about her or him. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
no. He definitely turned
his
into our deceased aunt about 5 years ago. I think it was more him than her. However, it got us talking about legacy.
Yes.
And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a story, because after having that conversation about legacy, I realized that we all, in one form or another, have some sort of concern about our legacy. Now, the vast majority of people, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
the vast majority of people look at their legacy through their children. Okay? That's passing on their genetic code. That's passing on their name. That's passing on their belief systems, their morals, their way of thinking. And that is absolutely a legacy.
Absolutely.
But that's not the legacy I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a legacy of creating some sort of piece of work that lasts and represents you for hundreds of years. So one of the things is, you could say that Michael Jordan had created a legacy.
Yes.
However, or LeBron James.
Yes.
But will those legacies and will those names last as long as names like Shakespeare or
Well,
Da Vinci?
Shakespeare is interesting because there's been rumors for a long time that he didn't write them.
Right. And maybe that's what kept his legacy going.
Yeah.
But there's not a summer that goes by that you can't go to New York and see Shakespeare in the park, or to London and see Shakespeare in the park.
It's a corpse
Yeah.
in the park.
He's getting some sun. What's he doing? Back in the fucking tomb.
Speaking of something like that, there was a story about phone calls to police in, maybe, I don't know if it was Helmich Park, but some park in that area here in Michigan about a casket
That
in the
just,
park. And so
it was just an empty casket in the park?
no, it was not empty. Turns out a woman had passed in, she was born here but lived in another state and didn't have the money to basically have a formal wake and viewing. So her friends, she loved that park, so they had it there.
Oh,
And yeah, the police rolled up.
I'm guessing they didn't get the permit.
No, there's no permit to get for that.
Yeah. That's what my point is. You don't get a
and-
permit.
The police were like, just give us a call ahead of time next time. That's all we ask.
Oh, really? They were cool about it? Like, all right, no, we get it. You want to,
But other
You
people
wanna-
were like, there's a casket.
I'd be like, there's a fucking casket. Absolutely.
I would have been like, oh, free casket. I'm taking it.
Of course you would. Of
That
course.
would be great on Halloween.
But getting back to this idea of legacy, right?
Hey, pull up the truck.
So what does it mean to have a lasting legacy? And I think James Earl Jones will be one of those people that does have one. It may not be a Da Vinci or Shakespearean or, Christ-like legacy.
It
But
should be.
I think that he will have a legacy because of the not only the quality of work that he did, but the volume of work that he did. He was very, very picky and made some really good choices. And a lot of people don't know that he came from Michigan and was a stuttering child and ended up having one of the most beloved voices there.
He was born
if you think about
in Mississippi, but raised in Michigan.
Okay. Do you know where in Michigan he was raised?
Yes. I don't remember the exact city, but it's in
It was on
Manistee County. So
Okay.
It's northern Michigan,
All right.
northwestern Michigan.
which is not a great place to be raised back in the day when you were a young black child who stuttered.
Yes.
Anyways, I think he has created this legacy, and I think that because of the story of Star Wars and how many different ways that they're going with Star Wars, I think that he has the potential to have a lasting legacy, at least as that character's voice. But what does legacy mean, really? You know what I mean? Like, what does it mean to you? Is it mean, you've got children. Is that suffice your legacy? Is that enough for you? Or do you feel like your band was your legacy? And is that enough for you? Or
I would say all of it. I love my son. You truly become immortal through your offspring. That is the note of immortality, if you will. But I'm also happy with some of the things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm in, the online Metallium encyclopedia of metal bands. I've got, my name is in the Library of Congress for music.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say so too. I don't look at my son as my opportunity for immortality. I look at him, and his nickname has been for quite some time 401k. Anyway, I don't necessarily see that as I see that as a physical embodiment of legacy, but not necessarily what I considered legacy to mean for a couple of reasons. One, I think legacy is doing your best to leave your mark in a way that is positive, hopefully, but oftentimes negative. I mean, let's face it, we all know what Hitler's legacy was. We all know what Mao's legacy was.
Yep.
Stalin, we can name some legacies that didn't go maybe the way that they were intended.
I will say both you and I are forever enshrined on YouTube, separately and together now.
Yes.
Your comedy video, my band music stuff. Mom is in one of the videos.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I actually showed her that just a couple of years ago. I was like, look, Ma, it's you. And she's like, look at me forever on the internet. I was like,
I don't know if they caught it in the special. I think they did, but Mom and Dad were actually in the audience for the special. And Todd Glass, who was the warm-up for the special, picked on Dad. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful because Todd had no idea that he was my dad and had no idea that he was about to introduce me after busting Dad's balls. So that made it really, really fucking amazing and special for me. But that's the thing is I was actually having a conversation with somebody who had no idea what my history and my background was. Mm-hmm. And a couple people that were in that group did. And so it came up. And so this person was like, holy shit, you were a stand-up comedian? I don't believe you. Prove it. And I'm like, yeah, just go look up, and I gave that person what they needed to look up. But what was interesting was apparently in that search, there were several other things that I had done, including writing the book. They Called Me Brent, which is available on Kindle, including a couple of movie appearances. Mm-hmm. And then this person at the end of it was like, holy shit. And I didn't look at it that way. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I didn't look at it like I had accomplished as much as I had because I'm always looking for the next thing to accomplish. So they're like,
Yes.
let me get this straight. You do a podcast. You spend, your life as a stand-up comic. You had a Showtime special. You did these movies and you wrote a book. And I'm like, well, when you put it like that, yeah, and I have multiple scripts and multiple manuscripts that are within, like the Writers Guild, Library of Congress. So those are just like a little bit of the highlights. It doesn't encompass all the other things that I had done as well. But it's not until you're having that kind of conversation with somebody that you realize, oh, yeah, I guess I have done
some stuff.
I have done a few things, right? So that's what I'm interested in is this idea of legacy and where it goes. And I think that people need to think about that. You don't have to be Michael Jordan or, LeBron James. You can just be somebody that's got an interesting story to tell. And nowadays, there's no excuse for you not to tell that story. Whether that's on YouTube, whether that's, self-publishing. Like, this is the greatest time in history to be creative. I mean, I don't care if it's a TikTok channel. I don't care. If you think you have something to say it. Yep. Because what I realized is between my Showtime special and between the podcast, specifically those things, the clips from stand-up, not just the Showtime special, but the clips from stand-up, and then on top of that, all the podcasting that we've done. So like the radio that I used to do, all the other stuff I used to do is lost in the ether. This is something that I have control over, and I'm putting out there with you. And this is something that, God forbid, something happened to me or you, we can go back to as family members that survive it.
You can program my voice into AI, and it would do just as good of a job as me.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I didn't say that.
You're going to have to show me. Show me, kid. Show me.
The creative process, now, like I keep telling people, I've gotten to the point where I feel like technology has caught up with me in the sense of I write music. I can now, I've got an AI program that I use to
produce it,
put my lyrics in, put my chords in, my chord progression, what I want it to do. And I can just hit enter and it puts it together for me like a music producer. And I can use that as a blueprint now for actually recording, which makes it way easier.
And way faster.
Yeah. And I don't have to deal with another musician's work schedule or their drug habit, or if they're just a jerk off. It just does what I tell it to do.
Right. See, that's a little bit different with stand-up. I don't believe that using AI really captures the human element with that. And I've had a lot of people ask me specifically recently if I was going to get back on stage, and I might at some point. I don't know.
Good.
Well, here's the thing: is like I would do it just for fun. I wouldn't do it trying to make a career of it. I would do it for clips, on YouTube and stuff like that. But I don't think I would go back to it as my main source of income. Only because of how people don't realize it is an exhaustive 24-hour a day, 7 days a week job.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include traveling. Like when you go, if you're going to go all in on stand up, you really have to go all in. And there are a lot of things and people in your life that suffer because of that. So that's the only real reasons. I love performing live. I love the creative process of it. I don't like the business. I've never liked the business, but I can deal with the business side of it. But in the end, it's more of a circumstance that I look at and I go, do I want to be in that arena anymore when I have this arena? And to me, the spontaneity and the improv aspect of doing a podcast, it really brings me back to when I was doing morning radio. And I always loved, even though I hated getting up for morning radio, I always loved that interaction, especially if you had like if you had morning guys that were like really good at their job. And what I mean by that is they were able to listen and know when to interject and when to not. those were the guys that I would have the most fun with, and we would have just awesome, like they'd be like, can you stay extra? Can you stay extra? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's stay extra. Let's keep going. You would also have the ones that were like very, very structured and like, you did your 10 minutes, get the fuck out. That's fine too. But I always enjoyed that aspect. I always thought the idea of having the opportunity to have a casual conversation and have it recorded and then have it go out to people was something that was fascinating to me, because you get to explore an idea in a different way. And it's not always about being funny. Any comedian, like I've been watching a lot of stuff about Jim Carrey lately, and the vast majority of it is where he's kind of explaining, I'm not the Jim Carrey that you knew before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a fun character to play, and I was lucky to get the role, but I got to a point where it was depressing because I was always on.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people fall into that trap of always feeling like they have to, especially when you're looking at the time that he came up in it. Like, he had to always be on because he was known for that type of energy.
Yeah, speaking of Jim Carrey, I just heard an interesting piece of trivia that Jim Carrey was supposed to play the professor in Back to School that Kinnison played.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah. And he turned it down because he said he didn't think he'd come off on screen old enough to be a professor. And this is 86.
Yeah, and he's right.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have.
He's like, no one's going to believe that.
Yeah, no, he's right. No one would have believed it. And it went to who it should have went to, because he took that role.
Kinnison.
Like, no one talked about anything in that movie besides
Is he
Kinnison.
right? I know we'd all like to think that.
Yeah. He did a brilliant job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But again, think about that. When you're Jim Carrey now, you're trying to walk away from one legacy to build another one. You know what I mean? Like, again, these are the things that I don't know how many people really spend much time thinking about. I don't know that I ever spent that much time thinking about it until, we were having this conversation yesterday and you were like, yeah, no, James Earl Jones said specifically this was meant to be something for his legacy. And I really kind of got caught up in that idea of legacy in the last 24 hours.
One of his legacies is also going to be one of the few people that have the title of an EGOT winner.
Okay, that means, for those who don't know, that he got an Emmy,
Correct.
A Grammy,
Correct.
Oscar.
Obie, technically, for off-Broadway.
Okay.
But it could also be Oscar because he did get a Lifetime Oscar award.
And then Tony.
Yep.
All right. I guess I didn't realize he was there are very few people in that category. I think Whoopi Goldberg, oddly.
Very few.
Right? I think she's in that category too.
So.
There's somebody else who's like on the edge of it, like a big pop. Oh, Hugh Jackman, isn't it?
It might be. It might be Hugh Jackman.
Like, he either has it or he's close to it.
Nathan Lane has got to be in that
I
category.
would think if Nathan Lane Lane. What a fucking
I don't
treasure.
care who you are. How can you not love Nathan Lane?
He's a fucking treasure when it comes, especially when you're talking like anything that's on stage.
Yep.
He's phenomenal in anything.
He's incredible.
And, like, you can put him in on screen, you can put him in, on television, doesn't matter. He's phenomenal. But where he really, really, really shines is on stage.
Yes.
Like, that's his home.
And that's
James Earl Jones. Yeah, exactly.
Who loved theater. He would say that he would do so many commercials and sponsorships to pay the bills to fund his love of theater, because he loved doing theater.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
The first 8 years of his life being mute, basically. He refused to talk because he had that stammer, and then discovered the beauty of theater, which helped him come out of a shell.
See, though, that's the thing, is I like a guy or a person, not a guy necessarily. I like a person who's willing to not grab the cash all the time in order to satisfy the pleasure that they get doing something else. Now, granted, in both instances, or in all instances, whether it's a TV commercial, whether it's a TV show, a movie, or theater, in all of those instances, he is being paid to act.
Yes.
However, the amount of money that he's going to make on, in the theater versus on a movie is significantly less. And the idea that he'd be willing to do all of those commercial voiceovers just to fund his habit, I think is phenomenal. And again, that's what makes me love James Earl Jones, is that he's always searching for that. He was always searching for that next thing so that he could do the thing that he loved most. And I think that that's kind of what built his legacy. You know what I mean? Like you said, he spent, 2.5 hours recording the first Star Wars.
As he said, George Lucas liked David Prowse, but wanted a darker sounding voice. With quotes in the darker. But, I mean, let's face it. The man had just this commanding voice.
All right, so if it wasn't him...
He actually tried to bring a little bit of expression to the lines of Darth Vader.
As much as you could.
And George Lucas was like, don't do that. This person, Darth Vader, is not quite human. If you give him emotion in his words, you will take away from the darkness that he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he did it slightly different.
All right. So if it weren't James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, who would you think would have filled those shoes?
Filled the shoes.
I'm going with Pee Wee Herman.
You are a rebel spy. I know I am, but what are you? You're a dark Sith. I know I am, but what...
The little lightsaber bow tie that spins.
And a little Yoda pin. Hey, picture him in the outfit riding the bike. Oh, shit. All right. So who would you picture? Because, like, you can't go Sam Jackson, right? Right, you can't. You can't go Sam Jackson because...
He told me you killed him. No, motherfucker.
Exactly.
I am your father.
I'm your motherfucking father. Get these snakes off this Imperial motherfucking ship.
Well, originally, James Earl Jones was not the original choice.
Who was?
Orson Welles.
Okay, I can see that, but I don't know that Orson... Well, first off...
the French.
He would have... Yeah.
Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, it would have been...
The commercial outtakes when he did a French wine commercial.
Yeah.
They're terrible because he was half in the bag.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
He was more than half in the bag.
So like, who would you honestly see as, like, somebody that was of that time that could have played Darth Vader?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Jack Palance.
Oh,
you want to talk about a cold, calculating voice.
Yeah. Jack Palance would have been fucking amazing in that.
Jack Palance is somebody I still feel like never got his due in Hollywood.
No, he did, but he didn't. Like,
yeah, but he didn't.
He like almost got it.
Everybody, basically remembers, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Which,
but I didn't
want to believe it because I was afraid he'd come out of my closet at night.
But he also, aside from Believe It or Not, he also did the Billy Crystal movies, which I think gave him
Slickers.
Yeah, that gave him kind of a late
bump
in his career, a bump in his career. And then
Batman. He was in the original Batman.
He was.
Well, not the original.
Yeah.
1989 Batman.
Well, that's the
original is 66.
Yeah, but all right. Yeah,
Buddy
you got
Batman.
me because of the movie. Yeah. So they did the movie first in 65, and then they did the series in 66. So yes. But
which I don't care. I like those movies.
So I think you're right. The only person that could have possibly have done that, aside from James Earl Jones, would have been Jack Palance. I can't think of anyone else. You know what I mean?
There was someone that I was thinking about.
No, you can't. Like, think about it. There's no one of that era, 76, 77, 78, in that time frame
70s.
That was really going to have... I mean, you could have gone maybe with Ricardo Montalban.
Maybe. But
I think that would have come off as too posh.
I think that would have had the same effect that George Lucas was trying to stay away from with Orson Welles, which is everybody would know that voice.
Right.
That's the big thing is back in the late 70s, as big as James Earl Jones is now, nobody really knew him back then.
Right. And I think you almost needed that kind of like anonymous, phenomenal actor that was working and was getting, you know, I mean, he was getting his due. It's just that he wasn't a household name. And, you know, like right now, there are plenty of actors that are, you recognize them immediately, but maybe don't know their name.
I don't know, you know, you probably don't know this. You probably never heard of the band, but Manowar.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic band.
I have heard the name.
Their opener, their intro has got Orson Welles reading. He introduces the band. His voice has done it since the early 80s.
All right. So hold on.
Which it's, ladies and gentlemen, from the United States of America, all hail Manowar.
Okay. Well,
which is awesome. And he's in 2 or 3 songs.
What about Vincent Price? Would Vincent Price have made a good Darth Vader?
That's a great observation. Vincent Price or Christopher Lee.
That was the other one I was going to say, Christopher Lee.
Which he has a metal album. Do you know that?
I did because you told me. I vaguely remember you telling me about 2 years ago that when we were cleaning out the house, I think you told me that.
He also witnessed the last guillotine execution in Paris, which is different from Marseille. The last one in Paris was the early 1900s, like in the 50s, I want to say, or 40s.
And he was a kid?
Yeah. And before that, actually, now that I think about it, but he witnessed it. He was also known for murdering Nazis. He was basically MI6. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
Yes. There was
So he was a badass motherfucker, huh?
Yeah. The character James Bond is actually based on him.
Really?
Yes. What's his name?
Ian Fleming?
Thank you. Ian Fleming based it off of Christopher Lee. Just the way he carried himself and that he was former MI6.
And
could never talk about what he did.
And apparently was a bit of a badass.
Yes, he was. There was a scene in one
but
of the
wasn't
movies
Ian, hold on. Didn't Ian Fleming kind of like, because it wasn't Ian Fleming in the military too, or part of MI6?
I don't know. I can look that up really quick.
Because I think he kind of made it a crossbreed of who he kind of wanted to be, but he also based it on several other characters. And I did not know that Lee was one of them, but
I will say he was not MI6, but he did work for the Naval Intelligence.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
But famously, there was a scuttlebutt between a director and Christopher Lee when it came to the sound of someone being stabbed in the back. And the director had it one way, and Christopher Lee started laughing, was like, that is not what it sounds like when someone is stabbed to death in the back. And the director asked him how he knew, and he told him.
Because I've done it.
Everybody was then terrified of Christopher Lee afterwards.
Yeah,
because he has killed people.
Yeah, I mean,
part of his duty.
Exactly.
Which, again,
now I hate to say this.
I don't know if I brought this up in the podcast in the past or not, but a man had died, a British guy, who was flaming gay. Always has been. Was never quiet about it, but served in World War II and was known as a very proficient Nazi killer and did it while dressed very flamboyantly.
I think that's the best way to do it. I think that's the best way to do it. Like,
and whenever he would walk into a building ready to murder Nazis, and he would always say that he was about to go shopping.
That's creepy.
That was his code word for
I'm about to kill you.
Go shopping.
Yeah. See, I used to say before I went on stage, time to make the donuts, but I like time to go shopping.
Time to go shopping.
So I hate to say this, but don't you think that that's the best way to kill people? Because to me,
there
and
is
I think
something
this
to be said about separating what you're doing. It's a psychological ploy where you are this personality and you're about to do something that is horrible, but for the good. So there's this separation of personality, like almost like the Winter Soldier in the Marvel movies, where there's a series of words to unlock his assassin, basically. And so you'd say it, he, was basically, it's the word I'm looking for, Manchurian candidate.
Yeah, kind of like brainwashing and hypnotized.
And he would become this vicious killer. It's kind of like that, a little bit of a sociopath.
But so Eddie, I think it was Eddie Izzard, did this bit, and Eddie is a comedian who is famously transvestite, and has been long before it was popular to be that way. But he did a bit where he was talking about how he wanted to be in the military.
I almost died.
That's all right.
It's what happens when you think you're taking a sip of water, but it's whiskey.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, but I did that once actually I had put a whiskey in a Dr. Pepper can at home and grabbed my Dr. Pepper. Glug, glug. Oh!
I've done that with water, like with water and 7-Up, and that'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
But he actually did this bit because he was talking about how he was always into like the military stuff. Like, so he had this really kind of weird childhood because he loved the running and climbing trees and jumping over logs and, and shooting and all this stuff. But he preferred to do it in women's clothing with lipstick and makeup on. and then he said, but isn't that the most terrifying? And I hope I'm attributing it correctly because I do believe it was Eddie Izzard. He's like, isn't that honestly the most terrifying thing you could ever see as an enemy is a bunch of 6-foot+ dudes coming over the hill dressed fabulously, carrying machine guns.
Did I ever tell you about the former SS officer? He was a part of the what do they call them? I don't remember what they used to call platoons in German. The waffle, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget. Waffle Brigade, the Waffle House.
Waffle House Brigade. They were trying to invade England. And there's a difference between England and Scotland. There's always been an issue, obviously. But Scotland, in their infinite wisdom, was like, if they get England, they're going to march north to us. So they decided to send down 2 brigades of Black Watch. And for those who don't know, Black Watch is like the Green Berets. They are the ultimate badasses in Scotland. And so this SS officer on the History Channel was describing what he went through and how absolutely terrifying it was. They were trying to basically hold a position, and the Black Watch kept moving towards them. Like nothing they did would scare these guys away. And what he described was, it was nighttime. All he could hear was bagpipes being played. It would never stop. No matter what they did, the bagpipe would never stop. And for those who don't know, when you play the bagpipes, it carries, it's been recorded carrying for miles.
Miles.
And somebody was playing a dirge on the bagpipes, and it wouldn't stop. And the idea was the bagpipes would hide the sound of the Black Watch moving. The Black Watch didn't use guns to kill. They used guns to distract. So they would take a shot. The German SS would drop down into their foxholes to avoid the bullets. And the Black Watch would use that momentum to move forward. Seesaw, forward, forward.
Oh,
forward.
That's good.
And they didn't kill with their bayonets or their guns. They killed with their knives. So it was silent. They had no idea where the Black Watch were at. So he ducked down from a shot, turned to his lieutenant to figure out what they should do next, and just saw his lieutenant bleeding out from his neck because the Black Watch slit his throat. He threw his gun down like, I'm done. Don't kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Black Watch looked at him, grabbed the rifle, threw it out of the foxhole, and then advanced. And was like, all right, I won't kill you. And he was like,
see, that's what I'm talking about.
And all he could talk about was these guys in dresses who moved silently, with the night,
That's what I'm talking about.
murdering everything in sight.
That's what I'm
If
talking
it was
about.
a threat, it was dead.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Those are the type of motherfuckers I want.
Like
On my
and
side.
he openly talked about how he had PTSD and had nightmares of guys in skirts and that bagpipe playing.
I'm telling
And
you,
he's like,
you can fuck
It's
with
been
people
50
like
years,
crazy.
and I still hear it in my sleep.
Yeah,
It scared me.
That's
like
what I'm
that.
saying is like we should be embracing the trans people that want to be in the military so long as they can step up like that.
And I should point out that those 2 brigades, Black Watch, held off the entire German army for 3 weeks.
Unbelievable.
That's how tough the Scots are.
All right, so we're getting close to the end, but I do want to talk about, aside from James Earl Jones, which I don't know about you, but that cut me almost as hard as Anthony Bourdain. I think Bourdain got me a little bit more.
You know what I watched
But-
last night because of the news? I watched Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, did you?
Great movie.
Yeah.
And he played King Thulsa.
Yep.
Fantastic. I was going to get a clip of him talking about the Riddle of Steel, but it just would not separate from the music, and we can't have the background music.
Right.
But
Right.
it was phenomenal. Just how strength is not in the steel, but in the arm that wields it.
He was just so great. You know what I mean? Like,
Just a great voice.
And like I said, really, I think what bothered me about that is I really felt like I was losing Darth Vader.
One of the great things that I watched last night of James Earl Jones was a bit that not Conan O'Brien, but it was David Letterman did. A top 10 list of things that sound better when read by James Earl Jones.
It's a fucking phone book.
And he stood there reading each one, and one of them struck me it was seriously funny, which was just meow 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 meow. It was just awesome.
All right, so just to kind of wrap this whole thing up, obviously, again,
People didn't realize, really, unless you met James Earl Jones or saw him off camera, just what an average, normal guy he actually was. He was not the guy that would get upset about Darth Vader and fans flocking to him over doing Darth Vader's voice. He loved it. He loved every fan.
well,
that he
think
came
about it.
across.
That had to be, I mean, the first movie, he only put 2.5 hours in for vocal work.
It's like Tom Hanks. There's some scuttlebutt with Tom Hanks with right conservative people trying to paint him some kind of pedophile, which is bullshit. I still don't understand how that started. But Tom Hanks was in an elevator, and a woman was like, "Oh, that's Tom Hanks. Holy crap." And she was there with her kid. And her kid was like, "I don't know who that is." And Tom Hanks knelt down and was like, "Close your eyes for a second." So the kid closed his eyes, and he did the voice of Woody, and the kid went crazy.
Oh, I bet.
Woody!
Yeah. See, that's the thing is like, you have to, I think, be appreciative even when it becomes annoying, because that thing that may be annoying to you at this point in your career
Yes.
is what got you to this point in your career. Okay, so enough of that. Let's just wrap this up with predictions on the debate tonight. What do you think? What are you feeling?
I'm not expecting anything. I am curious as to what will happen. I'm hoping Kamala comes out swinging, because I think she has to.
I think, though, he's ready for that.
I think he thinks he's ready for that.
Oh, no. That yeah, I would agree with you. Here's his strength. All right. He has spent the vast majority of his time on the campaign trail doing 1.5 to 2 hours every time he speaks. So he's got the ability for the longevity of it. Where he lacks is discipline. And if he gets cornered by her, he's going to turn into a caged rat.
I think what she needs to do is attack his policies or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Attack him with go on the offensive. You know, the old saying, what's the best defense? a great offense.
I think, though, that offense is doing what we've discovered he does not like, which is being mocked.
Yes, exactly.
If you mock him, especially to his face, and you're just like, oh, Donald, the same old playbook, really? We're going to go with that? That is so sad. You can do better.
Absolutely.
Let me get this straight. After 4 years of trying to think up of how to insult every individual that could ever be in politics.
She needs to bring up that he, for 2 years of his presidency, from 2019 to 2018, 2019, 2020, they had control of every branch of government: the House, Congress, the Senate, the Supreme Court. And they didn't do shit. They didn't do shit.
Yet that's when he was the most successful, though. Because after
was
that,
he those successful?
For what they tried to say was successful, that was when he was the most successful.
Nothing passed?
Nothing passed, but that was when he was the most successful, okay? Because from that point forward, especially when you get into 2020, when you're talking about COVID, that's when it all fell apart.
Yes.
That's when everyone went, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not on top of this. He's now talking about bleach injections and UV light.
Well, to be fair, because I'm all about fairness, he didn't bring up the bleach injection. The guy before him did. The Attorney General.
Oh, really?
Something like that. And so he technically didn't bring up bleach injection, but he did say UV light. Can we run UV light on people? And
I don't know. I just think that,
and it's all because he disbanded the pandemic response team in 2017.
and if you don't think that they're going to disband everything that they think is just wasteful,
Well, they want to disband the FDA. They want to disband the Department of Education.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, they always say, pull them up by the bootstraps. They don't understand that saying was actually mocking originally the idea that anyone can pull them up by the bootstraps. It was a thing of, mockery.
Mockery and dismissal.
And they embrace that without even thinking about it.
So if you had to lay a bet, who wins, Kamala or Trump? I'm going with Kamala on this one. I don't think Trump is prepared to deal with
I'm hoping America
pushback.
wins by hearing this, but
Oh, the old America wins.
the America win.
And I like that. That's a good place to leave it. Let's put a pin in it there.
I can hear the music.